You're listening to the Confident Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Gavin, former professional photographer turned professional encourager. I'm an intuitive life and business mentor focused on strengthening courage and confidence for heart-centered creatives. These heart-centered creatives desire to make an impact and an income through sharing their heart with the world. This podcast is dedicated to helping us creatives activate more courage within ourselves so we can experience more memories, achieve more milestones, and make more money. In addition to empowering stories, this show will also include practical, actionable strategies from thought leaders, influencers, impact makers, and my own personal experience. If you are passionate about the areas of intentionally living, prioritizing passion, choosing courage, as well as some soulful business strategy, spirituality, and some self-mastery, you, my friend, are in the right place. You ready to play? Hey, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Confident Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Gavin, and I am so excited that you are sharing your precious time with me. It is not something I take lightly, and I know you have lots of areas where you could be investing your time. So I'm just grateful that you're sharing a few minutes of your day with me. I wanted to jump in because we are in a new year. We are at a fresh start, and this time of year also brings some honest conversation with ourselves about reflections of the past and the past year, what we may have accomplished, what we may not have. There's a lot of conversations that I want to have with you over the next few weeks. And so I wanted to share a little bit of a housekeeping note over the next few weeks. I'm feeling really called to share some podcasts that are sort of short and sweet. I really want to give you sort of like a little daily dose, if you will, of inspiration and motivation. But more than that, things to think about and really awaken your heart. If you follow me on Facebook or in my community, the Confident Creative Collective, I am constantly using the hashtag HeartAwaker. I really believe that's one of my superpowers, is to help people wake up to the heart of what it is that they desire, what they love, what their heart is craving. And so I'm really feeling like it's a great opportunity to just give little bite-size, short and sweet kind of things to think about as we jump into the new year with a fresh month, a fresh start, fresh eyes, and really get clear on what it is that we want. What do we want to create in our life? What do we want to create in our business? How do we want to impact people? What kind of income do we want to make? All those things. So this will be one of those, and today's conversation is all about the lens between failure and feedback. And the reason I want to start with this one is because I am really passionate about helping people shift their perspective. It is truly my superpower. Reframing things is the thing that I have always done and the thing that I most serve my clients with. And when we change our perception and when our perspective changes, the entire experience changes, right? So Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I couldn't agree more. It really sums up the work that I do because there's freedom in that, right? There's freedom in really recognizing that it's just a perception. And everything is an interpretation. And I know that this can be really hard to get our head around. But when we actually get clear on this and this becomes our way of being, it's such a sense of relief. It's such a sense of freedom. And that's ultimately what I think we're really after, right? Freedom from judgment, freedom from, these stories that we tell ourselves about not being good enough. These stories about having to do more or learn more or be more. And I'm really interested in eradicating that virus that I believe, especially us creatives, have been conditioned to battle. And so I really want to talk about failure versus feedback and how this one little shift in perspective may give you a sense of relief and a sense of freedom that you might enjoy. So early on in my photography business, I realized that in the very practical sense, whatever lens I was using was going to give me a different outcome, right? So if I was using a zoom lens, I would have a different image, a different experience a different way to see the world than if I had a fixed lens, meaning a lens that does not zoom, right? And so what I also discovered is when I was taking family photos or when I was, going out on some sort of photography adventure of my own for my creative passion, I realized that the lens I was using was ultimately giving me the result that I was getting. And it was the same experience for the actual product, right? The actual image I was getting. So if I was frustrated with the image, I couldn't get mad at the lens. I was the one that was operating the lens, but the lens was just giving me feedback, right? I didn't have to see it as a failure. I didn't have to see it as this was terrible and I failed and it was awful and now I can make it mean that I'm not good at this and I shouldn't do this and all these things, right? Or I could just say, hey, the feedback is that maybe this wasn't the best approach. What else can I do? But when I really attached to the failure of it, then it really boxed me in and it started creating a ripple effect in the wrong direction. So when I started implementing this distinction in my brain of whatever I'm experiencing, if it doesn't feel good, I don't have to interpret it as a failure. I can simply interpret it as feedback, that's evidence of what I do not want, and that's okay. And that really plays into, I'm always preaching that we're really, us healers, creators, anybody that's here to make an impact. I really believe that a lot of the work we do is about permission for ourselves, permission for our clients, permission for the work that we do. And it was really about giving myself permission that I didn't have to make everything bad mean it was a failure. It was really just an indicator of where to pivot. What could I do differently? What did I want to be, modified a little bit? What did I want to be fine-tuned a little bit? And when I really started using the metaphor of the lens of a camera and the lens of my life, it really gave me permission to use the experience as just feedback. So when I look at the images that I took, if they were out of focus, if they were too dark, if they were too light, I didn't have to see it as I failed at taking a photo. It was much more about this feedback says I need to pivot, I need to test and tweak, I need to modify my, my skills, I need to modify my settings. And it's the same for us in any kind of creative business, whether it's pivoting our mindset, pivoting our beliefs, or our confidence, or our creativity. It's just a matter of recognizing everything we're experiencing is feedback. So I wanted to introduce this distinction because maybe it will serve you too, where if something's happening in your life, you don't sell the program that you want to sell, a client says they're going to invest and they don't, or you have a program that you're really excited about and for whatever reason you just can't gain the traction. When we start to attach meaning of failure, we immediately cut ourselves off to the gift and the feedback. So I would invite you to consider the next time something doesn't go your way, really ask yourself, do you have to make it mean it's a failure, or can it simply just be feedback? So that is what is on my heart today for this short and sweet, bite-sized little, heart-centered tip of the day, let's call it. And I hope that it really serves you. And if you have never entertained this distinction before, I would love to know how it lands for you. You can come over to our community, the Confident Creative Collective over on Facebook, or send me a DM on Instagram, carrie.gavin, and let me know. Because I think that there is such freedom in recognizing the stories that we're telling ourselves and really asking ourselves the question, does this serve us, or is this keeping us in a pattern where it's not allowing us to expand and evolve? So failure versus feedback, that is what is on my heart today, and I hope it serves you, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Confident Creative podcast. I am so psyched that I got to have this conversation, and I loved sharing it with you. If you enjoyed it, I would love for you to hit subscribe to the podcast, and it would mean the absolute world to me if you could go ahead and leave a review about what your biggest takeaway was. If you want to come over and continue the conversation, join us in my free Facebook community, the Confident Creative Collective. We'll be diving into all different conversations from the podcast, as well as some additional trainings and some inside scoop. If you want to find me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram at Keri.Gavin, Keri.Gavin, or you can find me on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you, and thank you for sharing this with anyone you think it resonates with. See you on the next episode.